These are the mindset shifts that made me a millionaire by the age of 23. Most people think building wealth is about working harder, saving more, or finding the perfect opportunity. I used to think the same thing. When I was 19, I was working as a nanny, making about $4,000 a month, which was enough to survive, but not really enough to do anything beyond that. Back then, my approach was to work as many hours as possible and save as much as possible. I'd take on multiple nannying jobs, learn to do cosmetology on the side, and learn other side hustles. I had the mindset that getting ahead was about working more hours and saving as much as I possibly could. I thought that if I had enough money saved, I'd be able to invest in things that I could then use in emergency situations. But you only have so many hours in a day, and there's only so much that you can work. The older I got, the more I realized that I was thinking about money completely backwards. I had to change my mindset, and with that, I was able to go from making $4,000 a month trading my time for money to building businesses that generated me over $13 million by the age of 23. My mindset shift started with understanding that the amount of money you make does not have to be tied to the amount of hours that you put in. So the first shift I made was from saving money to investing my money. Most people are taught that when it comes to wealth, you have to save your money, cut expenses, put money in savings, and be responsible. I was doing this too. When I finally took the risk to start my first Airbnb at the age of 19, I used my personal savings that I had from working and my personal credit card. The startup was about $8,000 to $12,000. I can't remember. It was literally 4 years ago. But my first month, I made a little over $3,000 from that property. Although this was only my revenue and not my profit, it's crazy to think that that number was almost what I was making as a nanny, working full-time 8 hours a day. By month 3, my very first property made $6,000 in revenue, which was like $4,000 in profit. That's when I learned something huge. When you have something that generates income without clocking into work for it, your mindset really starts to change. Our Airbnb was generating income, and yes, it did still take some time. We had to coordinate with our cleaners, respond to messages, sometimes restock, but that didn't take more than a few hours per week. That's nowhere near what I was spending on my full-time job. That's when it hit me. Wealthy people don't save their way to wealth. They invest to get there. Every dollar I spent building my Airbnb business was making me more than every dollar I was saving working as a nanny. Instead of asking myself, how can I save this money? I started asking myself, how can I invest this to make even more money? But here's where most people mess up when they start seeing success with their very first investment. They think they figured it out, so they do what I did next. The second shift I had to make went from working harder to working the numbers. When my Airbnb business started seeing success and I was profiting from my first property, I figured the more hours I put in, the more I'll make. But then I realized that it wasn't about the hours, it was about the number of properties. If my first Airbnb was making $5,000 per month on average, I just had to multiply that. With 10 Airbnbs, that would be $50,000 per month. Within the first 6 months of starting, I was generating 5 figures a month just from my Airbnb business. And the more Airbnbs we got, the more money we made. So Bryson and I picked our roles. Bryson was great at researching, running numbers, looking at market competition. I was great at design, setup, staging. Together, we were able to build a portfolio of 11 properties in our first year, making up to $60,000 per month. Literally 1 year after starting, May of 2022, I think we made like $58,000 that month just from our 11 properties. Even though the revenue wasn't all profit, it's more than we had ever made in the past, and that was enough to push us to continue going. The first few months of having 11 properties, things were going pretty well. It was definitely a learning curve, but it was still only a few hours per day managing. We just had to make sure that our teams were doing what they were doing. Cleaning was huge, but we ran into some issues with the landlord we were working with. The landlord that allowed us to go from 8 properties to 11 properties, we got 4 properties off him, 3 in the front, 1 in the back. The issue was that there was frat boys living in the front, and this led to so many issues that we couldn't foresee. The frat boys were causing bad reviews in the back house, and then when they finally moved out, the landlord didn't even fix so many of the issues that they caused. This led to negative reviews that started impacting our business, and eventually we had to downsize our portfolio by ending those leases. We started off really great, but we did have to backtrack a little to figure out what we were doing correct, but also areas that we needed to learn from and do better. Having 1, 2, or 3 properties is super easy to manage, but the more properties you get, the harder it is to continue managing them. It takes more coordination to keep the properties going, to keep them in great condition, to keep them clean, and to keep the guests happy. Also, the bigger our portfolio, the more work our team members had on their plate, which meant more compensation, which led to lower profit margins. Sometimes it felt like we were generating so much money, but there wasn't always that much profit left over. Now, don't get me wrong, we were definitely making more than we ever had with any job. I was able to quit working as a nanny. I was able to fully focus on the Airbnb business, but But when you're putting in that much work and taking on such a big risk, making $80, $90, or even $100,000 a month, but only walking away with, let's say, 20% profits, it can feel a bit defeating. This taught me that wealth isn't always about working harder, but it's about working smarter. And every property that we got, the research was so important, not just looking at occupancy rates and nightly rates, but factoring in real costs. How much do we pay our team? How much do we spend on restocking? What are our monthly expenses? Do we have to pay for maintenance? Is rent higher with better quality landlords? Smart people learn how to turn $1 into 10, but even smarter people learn how to keep at least 50% of what they're making. Instead of thinking, how can I work harder at this? I had to change my thought process to, how can I build this to create lasting wealth? Before even figuring out how to work the numbers with Airbnb, I spent a lot of time trying businesses that taught me what I didn't want to do. My third mindset shift was, instead of get rich quick, it was get rich right. Before Airbnb, I tried multiple businesses that didn't necessarily work the way that I expected. I first learned how to do nails. That was something I learned in high school, literally just through watching videos, through trial and error. I went to Walmart and bought a kiss set. I practiced on mannequin hands. I built up a clientele with people at school. I created an Instagram page. I had never even been to a professional nail salon, and I was just learning through trying it out. The thing about doing nails was, it was amazing because it was a side hustle that I could do before, after work, and during my free time, but it was physically exhausting. Sometimes it took me 2 to 3 hours to make $80 to $100, so it didn't give me the time freedom that I wanted. After cosmetology, I spent months learning how to trade stock options. I tried learning so many different strategies to see what I could be most consistent with. There were days where I was consistently making money, but then there were also days where I stayed in a trade too long. I didn't want to lose the money, so I tried to hold even longer, and I ended up losing hundreds or even thousands. I truly do believe that I could have been successful if I would have stuck with it, but when my bosses decided to relocate, I had to decide what I was going to spend my effort on. I tried dropshipping and learned from Scott Hilsey's simplified dropshipping course. I will say I gained a lot of valuable skills from that. I learned how to create a Shopify store. I learned how to run ads. I learned how to search and see what's a viral product. Still, it was tough to find a winning product that would make me the kind of income that I was looking for. This was before I was big on social media or before I was ever really posting. When I found Airbnb, it was scary just like the other ventures that I had tried, but it felt different because it felt backed by research, and I really felt like if I find properties that show projected profits, all I have to do is scale, continue reaching out to landlords. There will be plenty that say no, but there will also be tons of landlords that say yes along the way. And if I just keep reaching out and get properties that show good numbers, I look at my competition, I make my amenities just as good as theirs, I make my property look nice, I believe that I can make money from it. Unlike the other ventures that I was trying, Airbnb is a $1 billion company that markets itself, so it just felt a little bit easier to get into. Funny enough, I'm from St. Louis, and I never thought that it had so much demand, but a lot of our properties had extremely high occupancy rates. The part about Airbnb that also felt a little bit more secure is I could see exact numbers for what I was projected to make, so I could know what to expect. I would know how much I'm expected to spend, how much I'm expected to make, and how much of that would actually be profit that I could keep. I learned that sustainable wealth comes from businesses that make money even when you're not physically working. Remember, the goal isn't to get rich quick, it's to get rich right. Ask yourself, is this me getting rich quick, or is this me getting rich the right way? But even when you find something that is getting rich the right way, there is one challenge that stops most people from ever scaling past their first few successes. And that is shift number 4, which took me from I need money to make money to I need systems to make money. Before I ever started Airbnb and most of the businesses that I tried, I always thought that I needed a chunk of money before I could ever begin. But as I scaled my portfolio to over 50 properties at just the age of 23, I realized something different. One of the first systems we ever put in place when starting our Airbnb business was hiring a cleaning team. We needed a way to automate this process because we moved to Las Vegas the same exact month that we launched our first property. The second system was Hospitable. Hospitable is an automated messaging platform that allows you to create automated responses for frequently asked questions from guests. It also allows you to automate your cleaner's schedule. That way you don't have to manually go in and assign them. Not long after that, we discovered Price Labs, which is an automated pricing software. This changes the pricing on your listing automatically based on demand in the area, based on the size of your property, etc. If we ourselves were cleaning, we wouldn't have been able to relocate. If we were going back and forth sending every single message manually, we'd be spending far too much time in the business. And if we were pricing on our own, it would have been harder to stay up to date with the current market trends. Once we had our systems in place, we didn't have to clean each property after every guest stay. We had a team to do it. We didn't have to go back and forth with guests because we could figure out what are the common questions a guest asks. Let's make an automated message for it so it can automatically respond. Even when it comes to pricing, that saved us so much time because prices literally fluctuate daily, and going in and changing them, especially when you start scaling, takes far too much time. This specifically applies to my Airbnb business, but with every business you need systems. Without systems, we never would have been able to scale our portfolio to 50 properties, and we never would have been able to manage remotely. I learned that you don't need money to make money, you need systems to make money. The right systems let you scale without scaling your time, and for those who feel like money is an obstacle, there's business funding. Business funding can allow you to start or scale a business without having the cash sitting in your savings account. Once you start the business, you should ask yourself, how can I build this to work without me? About 5 years ago, Bryson gave me the Your Wish is Your Command tapes, and I started reading self-help books. Most of my life, I've never been a big reader. In middle school, I read some fictional books, but I've never been big on the nonfiction books. Not because I wasn't interested in them, but because I never really learned about them, and they just seemed boring looking in from an outside perspective. Little did I know, listening to those tapes all those years ago and reading those books is literally what got me out of the scarcity mindset, which is what I needed to actually move forward. For me, it wasn't about whether one property was enough or not. It was all the goals that I had, all the things that I wanted to do for myself, for the people I loved, and for the people I wanted to help. It was truly about creating a good impact and getting myself and my family to a better place. I didn't want them struggling anymore. I want to build a masjid in my community. I want to help orphans. The more that I can do for myself, the more I can help others, because more money means more opportunities. A lot of people might be scared to focus on themselves and they feel like it's selfish, but once you help yourself, that's when you can help other people. As I continue building myself into a better individual, I'm able to provide more and more for others. From the beginning, I didn't have it all figured out. I was literally just trying things day by day, but those things added up. Each one of those things gave me confidence to move forward again and again and again. Some things worked and some things didn't, but it all led me to where I am today. Look, I am not special. I'm a girl who grew up in St. Louis, Missouri with a really big family who dropped out of college first semester of freshman year. I didn't have any background in business or real estate unless you count the lemonade stand I had when I was a kid. What changed everything wasn't some magic formula. It was realizing that my mindset about money was backwards. If this video helped you change how you think about wealth, let me know in the comments which shift was your favorite. And if you want more content around mindset or building wealth, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Now, if you're thinking, okay, Inayah, the mindset makes sense, but what's the actual first step that I should take? Well, I want to invite you to watch my video where I break down exactly how I started my Airbnb business, not just the pretty parts, but the real numbers, the mistakes I made, and everything in between. The video shows you why this business model works, even if you're starting with almost nothing, just like I did. It's a video I wish I could have watched before I started. You can watch the video here. Stay tuned for my next video, and I'll see you guys around. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!